Hi, so today, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to play my favourite to do thing. So I've prepped the pages, I've stuck pages together, and I've put some torn up magazine paper on to the pages, and it's thoroughly dried, and I'm now just going to, sorry, my gesso has separated a little, so I'm just going to give it a nice coat of gesso to prime the page. Give me something to work with. There we go. I don't always do this. I do it when I'm not sure what my starting point is. I'm not entirely happy with the colours that I created with the magazine. So just to dry. Okay, I'm going to choose my primary colour. What kind of page do I want? It's difficult to start a colour sometimes. I think I'm going to go with, let's go with some green. So I'm going to use these distress markers around the edges of my pages, like so. It's a good starting point. I've got another different green in here, so why not put that in with it. Simple as that. I'm going to use my finger, just start getting some blending going on. Now, you know, with these things you can use water to activate them, but you lose they're still strong, what I call strong in pigment, but you lose the really brightness that this is with your finger. So if you get some wobble in there, that's how much I'm pressing down on my page. So I've got quite a good start. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with the rest of this yet. I've got these wonderful stamps that I ordered and I've been dying to use them. And I don't really know what I'm going to do with them, but they're just so quirky. So let's get my stamp pad. So this is my Stays On ink pad, and let's see what they look like. So just loading them up, and it down. Let's see what it looks like. As always, if it looks terrible, we can gesso over it. Good old press down. Oh, it's a tree. That's a tree. Okay. It's okay. Let's go for a bigger house next to it. Don't know where this is going to turn out, but it's fun to try, isn't it? I like that. Right, well, you've got to try them all now, haven't you, once you've started. Now the question is, do I do them all across the bottom? Or do I make that page the houses? Oh, I think I go across here. The last one. Yeah, if nothing else, I mean, I might pick some of these patterns out so that you can see them more clearly as houses, but if nothing else, they make quite a good background pattern. They're nice. Use them. Got them on Amazon if you want some. Yeah, that's quite good. So that's a start. Right, so now I'm gonna do one of my drawings. So let's get a face in there and some hair. So I think we'll start with the face here. So if I very loosely draw an oval in the guidelines. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to start just with a lead pencil. This is a soft one. This is just to sketch out my shapes. There's our eyelid, eyebrow, and nose. And mouth. So very sketchy at this stage. Quite hard to do when it's probably slightly smaller than I would normally do for a face. So then we start our hair, and I think the parting is going to be there. So we'll do our hair and up and over. Why not? And this hair will be sweeping there too. We'll do something fun with the hair today. And there's the neck. So you'll see I always come back to as if I'm brushing her hair. So it gives me the natural sweep that you would do if you had a brush. So I'm actually going to put some of these strands into the houses. I quite like that. So that's a very sketchy basic. So what I'm going to do now is just put a bit of skin tone . It's quite a translucent skin tone, so I can still see some of the lines that I've created, which is fine. I'm just trying to pick out her colour. Obviously at this point use any skin tone craft paint you've got. I quite like the translucency of this, so you can still see some of the paper underneath, but it's helping me focus on what I've actually got to paint for her face. Let's go back in with the pencil just to re-pick out some of those lines that have been covered up. So I'm interchanging the pastel colours. This particular set is specifically for portraits, so each colour is just perfect for the transition from the dark to the light across the face. So I'm using them religiously, if you like, sort of one at a time to get the graduation. The marker with it so that you've got a little bit more preciseness using a smaller paintbrush. But in these early layers you don't need to be so precise, and we're just, as I say, building up some depth, pulling out the features. I'm using all the materials I've got to make that happen. I haven't got a reference picture today, so I'm just making this up as I'm going along. So it's one of those I'm sort of feeling my way through it, what's working and what's not. Sometimes I find that works better. Sometimes it's quite helpful to use a reference picture, even if you're not trying to do a copy of the actual face, but you're using it to give you guidelines of light and shadow. The more you do, the more used to knowing where to put the shadows in you are, but that doesn't mean it doesn't sort of give more drama or effect using a reference picture where the lighting's perhaps coming from a different angle. So you can mess around and try with that by all means, you know, use photographs, use whatever. She's looking a bit scared there. I'm gonna have to sort her eyes out. Look at her, bless her. And with all drawings, you have to kind of go through this ugly stage before you can, and you've just got to bear with it. You get to a point where you think, this just looks terrible. What can I do? And you just got to keep working at it. It would be easy to quit. So I'm using a different kind of distress crayon now. They are the same, it's just a different brand. These are Tim Holtz distress crayons, and you've just got different colour selection. They do the same thing. You can blend them in with your fingers like I'm doing there, or you can activate them with water and then they will turn into a more soluble paint. So I've got some gesso there by the look of it. And I'm just using it over that cheek area where I've obviously smudged a little bit too hard, probably had a dirty finger. I'm just wanting to tone it out a little bit. Gesso is really good for blending and neutralising colours that have gone on a bit too strong, but as you can see, the gesso in this case is actually acting as a fluid that's activating the distress crayons that I've used. So I could have used water, but by using the white of the gesso, it's also acting to blend those colours out as well. It's really effective. Because what we want to achieve when we're drawing a face is those transitions between dark and light to look natural, not look blocks of dark shadow and then a sudden block of white. We want it to look naturally round, and we achieve that by blending those transitions so there's no sudden great lines. And this is a process of going round and round and round in layers, and using tools like water and gesso, medium some of the more smudgeable tools to blend and make those transitions more natural. I'm still using the gesso all the way around here, so the face is going to become somewhat a little bit flatter from doing this, because all the colours are obviously gradually being blended in together. And then it will be time to go back in and put drawing back in again. I'm really enjoying using gesso in this way. I'd highly recommend that you gave it a go, particularly when you use, you can use this actually with Stabilos as well, because they're activated, or Intense, or watercolour pencils, anything that's activated by getting wet. You can use gesso instead of water, just slightly thicker, and obviously got the white tint to it, so it neutralises it just a little bit, takes some of the boldness out of it. These are great, these Jane Davenport markers, for just really being able to loosely draw scribbly crayon effects, not using up much of the product at all, and then going back in with the gesso to activate and blend it all in. So I'm going to fast forward the next section for you so that you can see me working through in exactly the same way, adding layers of colour and gesso. So as you can see, I'm now using some of the white gesso to highlight some of the areas around her face, under her eyes, the little ball of her nose. It's just picking out some of the natural lighting as if the light was coming straight forward onto her face, under her eyebrows. And then again blending in the higher area of her forehead. This is just another layer to help the transitions between the dark and the light. It's not the whitest layer, or yet we haven't reached the darkest layer either. I'm now using matte finish as a layer to seal in, lock in all of the previous layers that I have done. So I'm just brushing it gently over the dried areas. I did make sure that all of the layers so far underneath were completely dry before I did this, to prevent it from smudging, but this means once I've done it that I can carry on and do the following layers without worry about it hurting the layers below. So I'm using a black eyeliner, or a black liner indeed, to go around all the sort of really dark areas and pop out the eyes, put the detail in. Now I've got the matte finish on, it's really easy to do that without damaging the pens, the nibs. It's not dragging out any paint, or the pastels that I used earlier, for example, they're all neatly sealed. And already, just by picking out the darkest areas, her face starts to pop out. I love this stage. This is where your hard work pays off, from the sort of the layers that you put on underneath. Again, less is more with the black. You really want to keep it to the absolute darkest areas. If you end up putting it everywhere, it loses its dramatic effect. So just use it for your dark, especially if you're using a reference picture. You'll be able to see that there really are half a dozen really black areas, and all the rest is lighter than that. I am an outliner by nature, and lots of people aren't, and lots of people are. I can't help myself, so I have to outline the outside of her face, and I'm then going in with the same pen. This is a very thin ink pen initially, just being careful with my marks, bringing in some sweeping hairline, always going back to the parting, as if I'm brushing her hair, giving it movement. I'm not going to attempt to draw every strand of hair at all. That's way too laborious, and I'm in too much of a hurry for that. That's my dog having a complete fliddy running around the house. I'm now switching the pen over to a Posca paint pen. The thin one has started to die a death. And as you can see, even just using more than one type of black is actually quite cool because you get thick lines and thin lines, and there's a place for both of them, and they act as contrast in their own right. And now I've obviously got the thin lines in, I can be more confident with my batter lines. And the bolder and the stronger that we get, I think the face just pops more and more. Kind of ended up extending her neckline. She almost looks like a pawn piece, I think, on a chessboard. If you want to watch me drawing like this live, you can tune in. I'm live every Monday on YouTube between 2 and 3, and on Thursdays I'm live on my Facebook page at 1 o'clock UK time. Both of those are UK time. And I've gone back to my thin black pen to just go over some of the lines of the house stamp, just to pop them back out a bit. And I'm being very, very loose about it, quite sketchy. So I'm now using a white Posca pen, which is my whitest layer, and I'm putting the highlights in where I've already put some gesso highlights, but I'm using my finger to just smudge them a little bit in places. And just like the black, less is more. Some long sweeping white lines to give the impression of movement of a hair. And using some highlights here, just in the centre above the eye, to again give the impression that the eyes are round. So I use the Stays On ink to give my work a border. I'm going in with a Stabilo pencil now, which is like a normal pencil, only it activates with water. This is called a black one. You can get it from Amazon if you'd like one. And I'm just emphasising some of the darker areas of the picture. And I'm going to go on to activate it using matte finish, I believe. Yeah. And as you can see, I'm using a paintbrush and I'm being quite careful with it. I'm making sure that the fluid is still going in the direction that I want it to go in to indicate hair. It really brings the black to life. I'm just doing the final details of this project using the white Posca pen to put some doodly dots around the edge, just a couple of highlights here and there. As you can see, I've done lots of doodles in the hair. I hope you've really enjoyed this project and that you'll have a go, just using your imagination, not necessarily following the rules, but I really like her. Until the next time, thank you.